Alright, and another concept sculpt video starting from the base female mesh, which is exactly what I did for the FPS GDC female mesh. And I think I did this one before that one. This is just kind of playing around a while ago. Again, starting with the base mesh and just sculpting on that as opposed to masking and extracting pieces off immediately. I'm going to kind of go through and explore just making stuff on the base mesh, Dynamesh. And of course it's duped off. You can see within the subtool I've got the base mesh and then I've got a duped off mesh just to kind of keep me honest, make sure the armor is going over her body as opposed to into it, unless I want it to do that. And keeping it simple. Standard brush, high Z intensity. Like I've probably mentioned before in other videos, I've got a pretty low Dynamesh resolution with blur and project turned off. But as things progress, I'm probably going to start upping that Dynamesh resolution a little bit, since it's fast enough on the new R7. I might be able to skip a little bit of the sketch refine phase where I sketch at a super low Dynamesh resolution and then bump up the Dynamesh resolution and refine it, because I've found that I've wasted a little bit of time doing that kind of stuff. Got some Mickey Mouse ears on there with an insert cylinder. And just doing straps here. And not building them in yet, just kind of using probably clay buildup or clay tubes to indicate where straps would go. And then once I'm happy with that, then... And of course, if you do want to have an extra mesh to kind of play around with, you can just do an insert insert. You can do a mask extract, you can do a topology brush, you can do an insert cube, Dynamesh, whatever. And again, when you insert a insert mesh onto an object that's Dynameshed, it'll inherit the Dynamesh property, so you can immediately go through in Dynamesh and start clipping and sculpting and moving and trimming, all that good stuff. And at this stage of the concept, I may or may not have much of anything up on my screens, and if I do, it's usually just cool shapes or cool stuff. It's not like cool helmet or cool bodysuit. It's like, I don't know, kind of just mech stuff or military stuff that kind of has cool stuff going on, cool shapes. And then once I start refining the helmet, then I'll throw in some more real world, like, okay, aviation helmet or military combat vest or stuff like that. But at this point, it's usually pretty rough and loose and not really caring too much about specifics. And if you haven't yet, definitely go to Cruel Games, Kruel games.com, and download Quadro for your reference viewing. It'll make a big difference. It's nice. You could have super concepty whatever reference, kind of like having Pinterest, but just local, that you can arrange around your screen however you want, as opposed to being at the mercy of a website and web windows and all that nonsense. And again, just indicating where straps are going to go, not laying them in just yet, but that's easy enough to replace once I want to do that. And also kind of deciding what materials I want her to be broken up in. You know, is this a leather vest, kind of striated? Is it plastic bulky armor? Is it a t-shirt under there? You can kind of indicate that just really quickly with, you know, sculpt some wrinkles. Does that work? A little t-shirt look, or And at the end of the day, you can do this very fast and not have to. I mean, eventually, yeah, sure, go into Marvel Designer and kill it. Why not? But just to decide where things need to go, don't spend your time just yet, obviously. And it's still a sketch, but I'm going to go ahead and start breaking off the big pieces: chest, helmet, pants, boots, that kind of thing. Just to kind of get a little bit more piecemeal so I can go into solo mode and kind of refine without having everything around. And unlike the GDC female, actually just started with looked like just a blob mesh extracted or something, and then it's fast enough to do. Just push things around the feet and get a basic shape, and you can mask the bottom and transpose that to a straight line and pull that down and go to the bottom, snap to the bottom orthographic view and pull that into a boot shape, and it doesn't take that long. But if you've got a boot you want to start from, I wouldn't stop you from doing that, obviously. Again, just indicating materials here. I think I ended up with some very early low res versions of keyshot renders for this on the ZBrush Central thread, but I think that's all she ended up as. And if you ever want to do some major exploration in any forms, like the boots, and it's like, well, I kind of like these boots, but I want to try something crazy, just dupe them off and then go crazy, and you can always go back to your original subtool. Or if you end up liking what you changed, you can delete your original subtool. And you could say you could see I wasn't confident enough to go ahead and take the leg pads and go ahead and just make those a separate mesh just yet. But that might have been a good idea, because even if I don't like those, it's going to be kind of a pain in the ass to kind of shave those back down to the original leg. So in that case, might have been smarter to just go ahead and do a quick topology brush, give me leg pads there, and just do those separate as opposed to sculpting those on. Food for thought. And again, just, okay, I've got the boots separated. Now I'm going to go ahead and separate out the knees and the feet, so I can kind of play with them separately and see if I can get those to work a little bit better together, but as separate meshes, so I can refine them individually. And again, this whole concept, by the end of messing around with it for a half day, throw some quick material IDs on it, send it through the automated game res and baker and UVer, and just get it in game on a rig. If you're working from an archetype, it'll bind automatically, it'll copy weights from an archetype, and you can just get in and start running around and making evaluations with everything: materials, colors, forms, shapes, animation, design, environment. And of course, this will work for a character, it'll work for a prop, it'll work for a level. Now, how you handle your textures is a little bit different, but same idea. And block it in, break it up, throw it in, evaluate it, make good decisions based on what you're evaluating in engine, and then refine from there. And you can see break that up and clip it back and kind of reform basic shoe design. And like treads on the bottom of the shoes and stuff can just be dug in, or alpha patterns or whatever. And more material breakup, but just within the sculpt. So where I'm putting in wrinkles and stuff, you can kind of determine, oh, okay, that's more leathery or that's more clothy, as opposed to just a big thing of plastic. And she's got kind of flat-footed boots on now. So there's no heel, there's no toe, there's no arch, but I don't know, is that a look? Maybe. And finally, attacking these pads, which I've been kind of iffy on the whole time. And at this point, I probably should have broken off those pads, like I said early on, or just put the pads on as a cube, insert cube, kind of like I did with these pocket things. Is just insert cube, do a quick sculpt that's separate, and you don't have to worry about it sculpted in, and then you have to break it off and go through all those steps. So pick and choose what you're going to just sculpt in and kind of play around with, and what you just want to put on after the fact and keep separate from the beginning. And of course, since I've already got some sculpted on, and if you already have perfectly awesome ammo pocket things, and go ahead and use those. If you sculpted some already, go ahead and throw those somewhere else if you want to kind of use those as placeholders, or keep the design consistent and just kind of use the same pouches everywhere, because they're probably from the same manufacturer, and she probably got a discount deal on the number of those, so she'd probably use more than just one. And for the material breakup and stuff, generally speaking, if you've got body armor on, it's going to be in an area where, you know, surfaces that are going to come in contact with a lot of owie things are going to be hard plastic or metal, and underneath surfaces that need to breathe a little bit are usually cloth. To kind of pick and choose what makes sense from a armor standpoint. From a mobility standpoint, you know, joints are going to, you know, you're not going to put a big plastic thing right in the crook of your elbow, because you do need to bend your arms. But your forearms might be padded or shielded a little bit if you're going to be running those into people's noses or scraping them against the floor, catching yourself. but more of the same. Those look like trim dynamic H polish. And pinch, if you put in a sloppy seam, you can use pinch to kind of, close that up a little bit, as well as pinch along hard edge surfaces to kind of refine the hard edge shapes. And again, this is a sketch all over the whole body, all the way around, everything together. I'm not spending a ton of time on just the gloves or just the helmet. Everything's kind of getting brought up at the same time as a sketch. And then ideally baked off and evaluated really quickly. And then refined from there. And it would be the next phase, I guess. Although ideally it would be in this phase too, but where I would go, okay, I got cool shapes I like. Now what exactly do all these things really do besides play the role of cool shape? Now while you're sketching and you can answer those questions, that's awesome. Sketch refine, you can answer those questions, that's awesome. Form refine, you can answer those questions at any point really, but the earlier you answer those questions, the better. Like that big hump on her back. Does it have wires in it? Does it have water, fluid? What is that? Is it communications hub, power, battery? And that might kind of dictate your design as you move forward. And then bring the body back to kind of keep you honest with making sure her clothes fit over her body. That's what I'm doing here, just making sure her pants are thicker than her actual legs. Does that make sense? And couple hour concept sketch here, but you can answer quite a lot of questions from it.